Welcome, yogis. My name is Erin, and I teach donation-based yoga on Zoom and outdoors in yards. And I also teach studio classes at Eugene Yoga. And this is the third in a new series of mini workshops I'm offering on my YouTube channel on Surya Namaskar, sun salutes or sun salutations. And if you missed the first two mini workshops, those covered classical Surya Namaskar and sun salute modern A. So today we're delving into the modern B form. You're welcome to check out those other workshops in your own time. As far as props to have on hand, you'll just want a yoga mat for the physical part of this workshop and any other props with which you normally practice, blocks, or a strap. And we'll begin here seated for a bit of background and context into sun salutes, and then we'll move into our asana and pranayama practice, our breath and movement. So let's get started. Though there are a wide variation of Surya Namaskar, sun salute variations that are practiced, there are three main forms. As I mentioned, classical, modern A, and modern B. So let's take a look first at why we practice Surya Namaskar. What is the relevance, importance, benefits of sun salutes in our daily yoga practice? First of all, Surya Namaskar is an ideal way to cultivate a conscious connection of breath and movement, what we describe in Sanskrit as pranayama, breath restraint, and asana, postures or poses. So through a sun salute practice, it encourages us to connect our breath to our movement and to move only so deep as our breath allows, and to take the full breath, inhaling and exhaling, to move from one shape to another. Surya Namaskar is also an ideal dynamic warm-up for the whole body, particularly hamstrings, backs of the legs, the back muscles, all those muscles along the spine, the hip flexors, right in the crease of the hips and upper thighs, and the shoulder girdle, which is really key to a lot of movements in yoga. Surya Namaskar also serves as preparation and practice for all kinds of other asanas, postures that we can explore in our yoga practice, whether in studio classes or at home. And Surya Namaskar is also a great way to tap into creative sequencing yourself. And you don't have to be a yoga teacher to start developing your own sequences in your home practice or to get creative in a studio class you're taking. So with the regular practice of sun salutes, especially modern A and modern B, you'll start to tune into places where you can expand or add a pose as you move through that sequence. We'll talk a bit more about that later in this workshop. And finally, a practice of Surya Namaskar, sun salutes, allows for dynamic movement of the arms and shoulders, which serves as a prep for back bends, inversions, arm balances, some of the more complex and challenging asanas. So if that's something you're interested in or working toward, modern B is a great way to deepen your strength, your openness, and your alignment integrity to get creative with things like arm balances and inversions. So with that broad context in mind, let's take a brief look at the differences between these three main forms: classical, modern A, and modern B. Classical Surya Namaskar can serve as a warm-up in and of itself. So it's a gentler, more opening, accessible form of sun salute. And in fact, if you're a fairly regular yoga practitioner, you could start your warm-up with classical Surya Namaskar. One of the main differences in the classical form is that we bring the arms forward and up, and forward and down, rather than out and up. So it's a more gentle awakening on the shoulder girdle. And if you've taken classes with me, you've practiced classical Surya Namaskar in all of my classes, whether gentle or advanced vinyasa, so generally accessible to most students. Moving on, Surya Namaskar Modern A is a more intensive, deeper warm-up and engagement of the physical body and breath than the classical variation. It also adds 4 new asanas, 4 new poses, not included in the classical form of sun salutes. And those are Chaturanga, Dandasana, the yoga push-up, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward dog rather than cobra, floating forward and back, and holding Adho Mukha Svanasana for 5 breaths at the end of each round. So we'll keep that in mind because all of that still figures into the modern B form of sun salutes. So moving to modern B, this is by far the strongest Surya Namaskar sequence of these three, suited more for experienced students with a regular yoga practice. So you wouldn't want to start on your mat jumping right into a modern B sun salute practice without having warmed up first. Classical Surya Namaskar, in fact, is a great way to warm up for modern B. So in my home practice, for example, I'll often do 10 or so rounds of classical sun salutes, move on to a few modern A, and then move on to modern B and start to get creative from there. Finally, the modern B format adds two additional asanas not in the modern A, and those are Utkatasana, chair pose, and Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1. And we'll talk through both of those this morning. So with that context and background in mind, let's do a little bit of a physical warm up here on our mats so that we can then break down the components of Surya Namaskar Modern B. If you're not already, come to a comfortable seat on your mat, either Sukhasana, one leg crossed in front of the other, or if Ardha Padmasana, half lotus, is in your practice, pulling one heel to the opposite hip crease. And then roll your shoulders down and back, shoulders over hips. And shut down the mouth, drawing attention to the breath. And just take a few rounds of breath here, eyes open or closed, beginning to connect your breath to your body. And if Ujjayi is in your practice, yoga victory breath, can begin to cultivate that here, creating a slight constriction in the back of the throat, keeping the breath moving through the nose, that sensation of fogging up a mirror with your breath, but with the mouth shut down. And if Ujjayi pranayama is not in your practice, just begin to cultivate any other deep diaphragmatic breath, deep belly breath. On the inhales, feeling the belly rise into the hands. And on the exhales, using abdominals to push the air up and out. Take 3 more rounds of this breath this way, tuning into your pace of breath that you can maintain when we begin to move. Good. So keep this breath moving throughout the rest of this workshop this morning. If you lose your breath, just come back to your Ujjayi. Open the eyes if they're shut down. And with an inhale, arms out and up, interlace the fingers, and then press the fingers up as you root down through the sits bones, feeling that link through the spine, grounded through the hips. One more inhale, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, tuck the chin, palms forward, seated cow. Moving on the breath, inhale, lift the gaze, push the fingers high. Exhale, tuck and round, pull the belly in. Inhale to lift, Marjaryasana. Exhale to round, Bitilasana. One more on your breath. Take the full inhale to lengthen and the full exhale to round. Good, and with the next inhale, reach the arms high and then make your way into tabletop pose. Going to stack shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and tuck your toes here. Tune into your strong foundation. Pull in and up from the belly. Press the floor away with all the knuckles of the palm and lengthen through the back of the neck. Take one more inhale here. And on the exhale, send the hips up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. If the hamstrings are feeling tight, take a few rounds of breath to pedal out the heels, bending one knee and then the other. Eventually letting the heels sink toward the mat, they don't need to touch, and pressing through the center of the palms. Let the head and neck hang heavy. A couple breaths here, knit the lower ribs in. And already here, preparing for Surya Namaskar,
Down dog is one of the connecting asanas that links all of our movements throughout sun salutes. And with practice, this shape will become a resting pose. With your next inhale, roll forward to plank. Option to lower the knees here. Whether knees are lifted or lowered, push back through the heels, reach forward through the sternum. Balakasana, also a key shape to all of the forms of sun salutes, including modern B. One more inhale here. Exhale, hips up and back. Inhale, come back forward to plank. Leave the buttocks lifted and lower knees, chest, chin. Ashtanga Namaskar. So this is the variation we use in classical Surya Namaskar, a little gentler than a yoga push-up. Draw the elbows back, press the toes into the mat, and keep the belly engaged. With your next inhale, slide forward, hover the palms and knees for classical cobra variation, Bhujangasana. One more inhale, lift the chest, shoulders back. Exhale, press up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take 2 deep breath cycles here, tapping into sthira and sukha, effort and ease. If you lost your ujjayi breath, come back to your rhythmic breathing. And with your next inhale, gaze between the thumbs, come up on the tiptoes, and begin to tiptoe toward the hands. Slow and steady, drawing weight to the shoulders. Keep lifting those hips high. Eventually meeting in a forward fold, Uttanasana. Bring the feet hips distance apart. Catch the elbows with the palms and begin to sway left and right. Draw the weight toward the toes and keep lifting up from the belly and the perineum. Feeling the gaze turn between the legs, maybe all the way up between the inner thighs. Back of the neck hangs heavy. Drawing breath through the hamstrings, feeling that opening through the back of the legs. The next time you rock through center, let the hands go. Spread the toes wide, bend the knees, and begin to roll up, one vertebrae at a time. Press the floor away. And we'll meet standing tall in Tadasana, mountain pose. Reach the fingers down, root through all 4 corners of the feet. This will be our starting point for all of our Surya Namaskar sun salutes. Begin to find that full body engagement. Lift the kneecaps, feeling the quads grow tight. Squeeze the glutes together, tucking the tailbone under as you pull the belly in and up. Find length through the spine as you root down through fingers and feet. So before breaking down the modern B Surya Namaskar, we'll take a couple of rounds of the classical variation just to warm up enough. Beginning in Samastihi, hands at heart center, equal standing pose. And we'll move on the breath. Inhale, reach arms forward and up. Exhale, fold. Plant the hands, right foot back. Inhale, low lunge. Exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Inhale, forward to plank, lower knees as you need. Exhale, lower knees, chest, chin, elbows back. Inhale, slide forward, hover the palms for cobra. Exhale, press up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Left foot steps forward. Inhale, back to your low lunge. Exhale, step up and fold. Inhale to rise, arms forward and up. Exhale, heart center. Second side. Inhale to rise. Exhale, fold. Left foot back. Inhale, low lunge. Exhale, press back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale, forward to plank, just a breath. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, Ashtanga Namaskar. Inhale, forward for cobra, lift the kneecaps. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog. Right foot forward, inhale, low lunge. Exhale, step up and fold. Inhale to rise. Exhale, heart center. Inhale to rise. Exhale, fold. Right foot back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Inhale, forward to plank, Phalakasana. Exhale, lower, knees, chest, chin. Inhale for cobra, Bhujangasana. Exhale, up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Left foot forward, inhale, low lunge. Exhale, step and fold, Uttanasana. Inhale to rise, reach the arms high. Exhale, heart center. Last side. Inhale to rise. Exhale, fold. Left foot back. Inhale. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale to plank, Phalakasana. Exhale, lower, Ashtanga Namaskar. Inhale for cobra, Bhujangasana. Exhale, up and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Right foot forward, inhale, low lunge. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Inhale to rise. And exhale, heart center. Nicely done. Come back to Tadasana, reach the fingers down. And we'll add on here, moving through modern Surya Namaskar A, warming up to add the two new poses that we'll find in modern B. With an inhale, palms to heart center, Samastihi. With your next inhale, arms out and up, palms touch. Exhale, swan dive forward, lead from the heart. Inhale, half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold, step back to plank. Inhale, roll forward on the toes. Exhale, elbows to ribs, lower halfway. Flip the feet. Inhale for up dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, send the hips back, downward facing dog. And this is where we'll hold for 5 breaths. As you're working to find down dog as a resting shape, always the option to move to tabletop, still building strength here, or move to child's pose to catch up with the breath. If you're in down dog, drawing inner elbows toward the sides of the head, pressing the heels down and back. Next inhale, gaze forward, come up on the toes. Exhale, step or hop to the top of the mat and fold. Inhale, half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale to rise, arms out and up. Exhale, release. We'll take that once more on the breath. Modern A. Inhale to rise, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift, pull the shoulders back. Exhale, plant the hands and step or hop to plank. Inhale, roll forward. Exhale, chaturanga, halfway down. Flip the feet. Inhale, up dog, hands and feet on the mat.
exhale, hips back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Once more, hold in here for 5 breaths. Maybe feeling more openness through the backs of the legs, the shoulders, feeling some heat behind the belly button. Smooth out your Ujjayi breath. And with your next inhale, gaze forward up on the toes. The bottom of the exhale, step or hop, forward fold. Inhale, half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale to rise, arms out and up. And exhale, release. Good effort. Come back to your Tadasana pose. Feet together, big toes touching, heels slightly apart here. Reach down through the fingers and imagine a string lifting up from the very top of your head. Come back to your breath. Take a moment to notice the effects of Surya Namaskar already here. Maybe feeling more open, maybe feeling more grounded. Let the mind be focused and calm. So from here, if you're feeling warmed up enough, we'll move on to looking at Modern B. First breaking it down and then taking a few rounds on the breath. So I mentioned earlier, there are 2 new asanas that are added to Modern B. So we just moved through Modern A, moving from standing to a fold, to plank, to the push-up, to down dog, and then back to the top of the mat. So the Modern B form adds 2 new asanas. The first is Utkatasana chair. For chair pose, we reach the fingers and arms up, sit the hips back, and then tuck the tailbone while lifting through the chest. It's kind of a dual motion here. We want to look down at the toes, make sure we can see the toes just in front of the knees. Now, if this feels too intense, option to begin working at Utkatasana with hands on the hips. That'll decrease the openness you need in chest and shoulders. If you feel very stable, option to bring palms together, turn the gaze up as you keep sinking those hips back. Take a moment here to explore your chair pose. 2 translations, also known as awkward pose, Utkatasana. So if you feel a little awkward here, you're right on track. With your next inhale, stand up and exhale, let that go. Shake that out. And we'll try that once more. So our Modern B form begins with chair pose, definitely more dynamic than the other 2 forms. When you're ready, inhale, bend the knees, sweep the fingers down, and reach the arms up. Sit back on the heels. So in our sun salutes, we'll just do this on the breath, but we're holding a bit here, tapping into our alignment. Another modification option is to bring the legs hips distance apart here. If you do that, make sure the knees stay right over your ankles rather than splaying out. Wherever you're at, inhale, stand up, and exhale, release. So that's the first of the 2 new asanas added to this variation of sun salutes. The second is Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. So we'll walk through that here, and we'll start to put this all together. From the top of the mat, hands on the hips, take a big step back with the left foot, and then plant through that back heel. Bend the front knee, and left toes are pointing up toward the left top corner of your mat. Keeping hands on hips to start, pull that left hip forward, right hip back, tuck your tailbone, pull the belly in, and draw the shoulders back. Back leg is straight and strong, and heel is grounded. When you feel stable, inhale, reach the arms up alongside the ears, and then if the rib cage splayed out, pull it in. Keep those hip bones shining forward. Virabhadrasana 1. If you have the openness, option to bring palms together and turn the gaze up. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, hands to hips, and step back to the top of the mat. Let that go. So we'll take Virabhadrasana 1 on the second side, and then I'll offer a modification if that's not feeling comfortable. Rooting through the left foot, take an inhale. Exhale, step the right foot back, bend the left knee, right toes pointed toward the top right edge of your mat, and then pull the left hip back, right hip forward. Press through the back heel, back leg and glute are straight and active. When you feel stable, inhale, reach the arms high. Exhale, relax the shoulder heads down, knit the ribs in, and really press through that back heel. Virabhadrasana 1. Option to bring palms together, turn the gaze up, challenging openness and balance. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, hands to hips, and step to the top of the mat. Let that go. So in our modern B form, we'll just be holding that for one breath each side. But if that's feeling too intense, or you're still working toward the balance to be able to rise up on the breath, option to start with high lunge instead, Ashta Chandrasana. Doesn't require quite the same openness in that back leg. So you can take a moment to try this with me if you like. Standing at the top of the mat, take an inhale. Exhale, step the left foot straight back. Keep the heel lifted. Stack your heel over those back toes, and then reach the arms high. Take a moment here, Ashta Chandrasana, to notice how this feels different. And if this feels more accessible, option to replace your warrior ones with high lunge. One more deep inhale here. Exhale, hand to hip, and step forward. We'll find the second side. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, step the right foot back on the back toes. Keep that right heel lifted. And when you feel stable, reach the arms high. Ashta Chandrasana. Just like warrior 1, hip bones are pointing straight forward here, nice and square. See if you can get that back leg straight, stacking the heel over your toes. One more inhale. Exhale, hands to hips, and step forward. And so there you have it. Those are the 2 new asanas we'll incorporate into our modern B flow. If you're feeling like you'd just like to watch at this point, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, we'll begin to take this through, first adding some extra breaths, and then we'll take a round or 2 on the breath. Just like all of our Surya Namaskar, we start at the top of the mat. Bring palms to heart center, thumbs to heart, heart to thumbs. Take 2 breaths here. Let the mind be focused and calm. Let the muscular body feel strong and engaged. So remember, we're starting off with chair pose, Utkatasana. With your next inhale, bend the knees, reach the fingers up, hips back. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, half lift, flat back. Exhale, plant the hands, step back to plank. Inhale, roll forward. Exhale, lower. And then option here to lower to the belly instead. If you're finding chaturanga, make sure you're lowering halfway down, sternum forward, heels back. From here, moving to up dog, palms and tops of the feet on the mat, or if you lower to the belly, find cobra pose. Hip bones are still on the mat, tops of the feet pressing down. When you're ready, we'll press up through knees or plank and make our way to down dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. We'll hold here a few extra breaths. So far, other than chair pose, this seems just like modern A. So this is where we incorporate our Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1. Inhale, right leg up and back, hips squared. Exhale, look forward, knee to nose, step through for warrior 1, right foot forward. Plant through that left heel and inhale to rise, just a breath.
Exhale, cartwheel the hands, step back to plank, and move through your flow. Halfway, chaturanga dandasana, or to the belly. Inhale for cobra or up dog, and we'll all meet back in downward facing dog. An extra breath here, sinking up. And then we take warrior one, second side. Inhale, left leg up and back, big toe down. Exhale, knee to nose, step through for Virabhadrasana 1. Plant the back heel and inhale to rise, reach the fingers high. Exhale, cartwheel the hands, step back to plank and flow once more. So you're noticing there are 3 rounds of yoga push-ups in each round of Modern B Sun Salute. So it's quite a bit more intensive and vigorous than the other variations. We hold for 5 breaths after that last side. Remember, always the option to lower the knees for tabletop or find child's pose here, especially if the breath grows choppy. Eventually meeting back in down dog. With an inhale, gaze comes forward. Bottom of the exhale, step or jump, forward fold. Inhale, half lift, shoulders back. Exhale, fold, and we'll come back to chair pose. Inhale, reach the arms, hips back. And exhale, release. So that was 1 full round of Modern B. We'll take that once more, talking it through, slowing it down, and then we'll try it on the breath. Meeting me back at the top of the mat, rooting through all 4 corners of the feet, and bring palms to heart center. With an inhale, bend the knees to reach the fingers up for chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step or float. And find your flow, lowering halfway or to the belly. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. A couple extra breaths here in down dog. And then we're moving toward our warrior 1. Inhale, right leg up and back. Exhale, knee to nose, pull the belly in and step through. Plant the back heel and inhale to rise. Lift through the spine, drop through the hips. Exhale, plant the hands, step to plank. Find your flow, elbows to ribs. Lots of integrity, breath, guiding movement here. Meeting back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. An extra breath here, straightening through the arms, send the heels down and back. Inhale, left leg high. Exhale, step through, knee to nose, Virabhadrasana 1. Plant the back heel, inhale to rise, roll the shoulders back. Exhale, cartwheel the hands, step to plank and flow once more, building heat and strength. We'll all meet in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take 5 breath cycles here on your breath. See if you can tap into that sense of rest, that sense of ease that comes through effort. With your next inhale, gaze forward and step or jump to the top of the mat. Uttanasana, fold. Inhale, half lift, pull the belly in. Exhale, fold. Closing it off with chair pose. Inhale, hips back, reach the arms up. And exhale, release. So if you're feeling like you've had enough here, you're welcome to listen through the last round. We'll take that again now on the breath. Take notice, if you're joining me, how much more heat and movement is created here compared to classical and modern A Surya Namaskar.
Once more, starting at the top of the mat, big toes together, heels slightly apart, and bring the palms to heart center. Take 2 deep rounds of calming breath here. And we'll begin for a full round of Surya Namaskar Modern B on the breath. Inhale, bend the knees, lift the arms, Utkatasana. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step or float back and move through your push-up halfway or to the belly. Inhale for up dog or cobra. Exhale, up and back. Right away, inhale, lift the right leg high. Exhale, step through for Virabhadrasana 1. Inhale to rise, just a breath. Exhale, plant the hands, step to plank, move through your flow. Keep the breath deep. Meeting back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Right away, inhale, left leg high. Exhale, step through for Warrior 1. Inhale to rise, reach the arms high. Exhale, cartwheel the hands, step back to plank, and flow once more. Always the option to add extra push-ups on your flows if you're needing more intensity. Holding in down dog, about 5 full breaths. Come back to your rhythmic ujjayi. Soften the jaw and face. With your next inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step or hop, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, back to chair, Utkatasana. Exhale, stand up and release. Good effort. Shake out the legs. And then before we wrap this up, come back to your Tadasana mountain pose. Reach down through the fingers, lift up from the top of the head, roll the inner thighs together. Find your full muscular engagement here. And then shut down the eyes. Begin to rock the weight forward, back, left, and right. Do that a couple more times, tapping into your center of balance and noticing any effects in the physical body, in the mind, in the energetic body from our practice of Surya Namaskar. Eventually, feel shoulders stack over hips, hips over ankles. One more full breath cycle here. And then open the eyes. We'll make our way to seated to wrap this up. With an inhale, arms out and up, palms touch. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. One more inhale in your down dog. And on the exhale, lower to the knees and find a comfortable seat on your mat. If you found half lotus, Ardha Padmasana in the beginning, taking the opposite foot, crossing it on top, or maybe full lotus is in your practice. So today we've looked at Surya Namaskar in general, and then we took a bit of a closer look to the modern B format. So a couple of takeaways here, if you're wanting to involve this in your home practice or deepen your practice of modern B sun salutes. Really important to think about joint health, particularly in the shoulders, hips, and knees. In general, and anytime we're moving through flows, yoga push-ups. So really focusing, if you're not able to lower halfway into chaturanga yet, without the back sinking or the buttocks lifting, that's okay. Start with knees lowered or practice lowering all the way to the belly first. So each time you come to your mat, remembering to start where you are. It might look or feel differently than yesterday, than tomorrow, and that's okay. That's yoga. Second consideration, remember option to use high lunge, Ashta Chandrasana, instead of warrior one, Virabhadrasana one, as you're working to build that hamstring openness and that strength. So always good to modify as needed. Consideration number three, make sure to warm up first. Get that connection, that conscious connection to breath and movement established before moving on to modern B. And so as I mentioned earlier in this workshop, begin your practice maybe with some cow cats, a down dog, and then move through at least 5, if not 10 rounds of classical Surya Namaskar on the breath before moving to these deeper variations. If you find it challenging to move through 5 or 10 rounds of classical, that's okay. Then that's where you're at. Work on that. And when that becomes a bit easier on the breath, you're ready to deepen to modern B. And lastly, if you're working on a home practice, like I know many of my students are, challenge yourself to build up to eventually doing 5 full rounds of modern B, Surya Namaskar, on the breath. And as you can imagine, that's quite vigorous because each round you're taking warrior one each side and moving through 3 rounds of yoga push-ups. So be patient, set some manageable goals for yourself, and be willing to adjust or modify if you make it to your mat the next day and you're in a different place than the day before. So that's all on Surya Namaskar Modern B. If you're interested in delving into this more on your own, I recommend the book Light on Yoga by Iyengar that I've mentioned and used before. It's a great compendium of asana, pranayama, Surya Namaskar. And then another book, if you're a teacher or interested in maybe teaching or in a teacher program, I really like the Mark Stevens books on yoga sequencing. He has a lot of books, but in the yoga sequencing books, there's some nice visuals if you're more of a visual learner, and a lot of really detailed explanations of benefits, contraindications, and ways to kind of modify Surya Namaskar to incorporate it to your own practice. Thank you all for joining today. I love to hear feedback through my YouTube channel, in my Facebook group. And if you'd like to make a donation to support donation-based yoga, you can donate through Freelancer PhD, FREELANCER, by either PayPal and Venmo. Either way, really glad to have you here. Stay tuned for more mini workshops on other topics coming up in the next month. Namaste.